A few years back, I tracked what I was spending on produce, and the number was $832 for the year. That stung. So I started paying attention to which vegetables actually pull their weight, the ones that just keep giving all season long instead of handing you one sad harvest and quitting. Out of everything I've grown, 10 of them stood out as so productive they basically erased entire lines off my grocery list. I'll count them down from 10 to 1, and the one at number 1 is the plant that single-handedly took the biggest bite out of that $800 number the year I finally figured out how to grow it right. Here's the thing, when I went back through everything I grow, I threw out every vegetable that hands you one harvest and then quits on you. A single head of cabbage, one beet pulled from the ground. Those are fine, but they're done after one trip to the kitchen. That's not what we're after today. I only kept the ones that keep giving. The cut-and-come-again leafy stuff, the pick-more-get-more climbers, the plants that hand you food week after week with almost no extra work from you. That's the whole filter. That's why these 10 erased actual lines off my grocery list instead of just decorating a salad once. I'm going to count them down from 10 all the way to 1, ranked by how big a bite each one took out of that $832 number. And I'll be honest with you up front. The one at number 1 is the plant I had to kill a few times before I figured out how to grow it right. It took the biggest bite of all. You don't need a yard for most of these, by the way. You need a window and a little patience. Let's get into it. Number 10. Cut and come again leaf lettuce. This is the one I tell every nervous beginner to start with because it gives you a win in about a month. I don't grow head lettuce anymore. Head lettuce hands you one cut and it's done. Leaf lettuce, the loose kind, you harvest the outer leaves at around 30 days and the plant just keeps pushing new growth from the center. I get 4, sometimes 5 cuttings off a single plant before it finally gives up. One $2 seed packet replaces a whole shelf of those $3.50 grocery clamshells, the ones that go slimy in your fridge before you finish them. And here's a little bonus. I save the romaine bottoms from the store, the part you'd normally toss, and I sit them in a jar of water on my kitchen windowsill. They push a little flush of new leaves right there on the counter, salad on tap, all from stuff I almost threw in the trash. Speaking of the trash, the next one regrows from something you've been throwing away your whole life. Number 9, green onions, scallions. This is the plant that started everything for me. Years back in my Portland apartment, I cut the white root ends off a bunch and tossed them in a glass of water on the counter, mostly out of curiosity. I forgot about them. A week later, they'd shot up 3 inches of green. I cooked with the tops that night, and something just clicked. Now I plant those white bases right in the soil and cut the greens whenever I need them, over and over. They never quit. My old neighbor Gloria, who taught me most of what I know, sorts her green onion roots into a little bowl every single time she cooks. It's just a daily habit for her. That $2 a bunch line on my grocery receipt? Gone for good. Now, green onions you harvest a little at a time. The next one you plant once and pick from for nearly a full year. Number 8. Swiss chard, and I grow the bright lights variety because the stalks come up red, gold, and pink, and it honestly looks beautiful in the bed. But I don't grow it for looks. I plant it once in spring, and then I just snap the outer stalks off all season long while the center keeps making more. Here in Sacramento, in my zone, the real magic is that chard pushes right through our mild winter. My first frost doesn't hit until early to mid-December, and chard barely notices. 2 plants fed me for months. This is the plant that simply refuses to quit on you. And funny enough, the next leafy one actually gets better when the cold rolls in. Number 7. Kale, and I grow lacinato, the dark, bumpy dinosaur kale. One single plant will produce for close to a year if you treat it right. The trick is to harvest from the bottom up, taking the lowest leaves and letting the plant keep growing taller from the top, almost like a little palm tree. Just like the chard at number 8, it's an all-season cousin that shrugs off our mild winters. But kale has one trick chard doesn't. After the first light frost in Sacramento, those leaves turn noticeably sweeter because the plant pushes sugar into them to protect itself from the cold. Smoothies, sautés, a big pan of crispy kale chips, all for pennies once that one plant is established. Leafy greens are the easy part, though. The next one is where the volume gets a little ridiculous. Number 6, cucumbers, grown straight up a trellis. This is where people who think they have no space need to lean in, because a cucumber doesn't need a sprawling bed. It wants to climb. I run mine up a vertical trellis against the fence, and that single move means even a balcony grower with one container can do this. Here's the thing about cucumbers, though. You have to pick them every other day, no exceptions. The second you let a few fat ones hang on the vine, the plant figures its job is done and slows way down on making new ones. Keep picking, and it keeps cranking. One summer, 1 or 2 plants completely overwhelmed me. I had cucumbers stacked on the counter, cucumbers in the fridge, cucumbers I was handing to anyone who walked by. I ended up pickling jars and jars of the surplus just to keep up. That's the kind of producer I'm talking about, more than I could even give away, but a cucumber at least slows down when it's tired. The next one on my list climbs just as high, never takes a day off, and it taught me a rule that runs straight to the top of this countdown. Number 5. Pole beans, and I want to be specific here, because this is exactly where a lot of folks trip up. Pole beans, not bush beans. Here's the difference, and it matters more than you'd think. Bush beans give you 1 big flush, maybe 2 if you're lucky, and then they're basically finished. That's the one sad harvest I warned you about back at the start of all this. Pole beans are the complete opposite. They climb a 6 or 7 foot trellis, reaching for the sky, and the more you pick, the more they set. I've stood at my trellis on a July morning, picking a whole colander full of beans, and 3 days later, there's another colander hanging there waiting for me. The plant is simply wired to keep going as long as you keep taking from it. One season, I grew a single row against the south fence, and it produced steadily from early summer all the way into the fall. At $2 or $3 a pound for fresh green beans at the store, that one row of seeds, maybe $1.50 in a packet, handed me what amounted to a wall of free beans for months on end. And here's something I really want you to hold on to, because it's the quiet secret behind this entire top of the list. The plants that just keep producing all share one simple rule: keep picking, keep producing. The number 1 vegetable, the one I nearly gave up on entirely, lives and dies by that exact rule. A wall of free beans off $1.50 in seed is awfully hard to beat. But believe it or not, the next one out produces even this. Number 4. Summer squash, and zucchini in particular. Now, this is the one with the reputation, and it earned every bit of it. If you've ever known a gardener in the middle of July, you know exactly what I mean. They're the folks leaving zucchini on your porch, ringing the doorbell, and running off before you can hand it back. There's a real reason for that. At peak, a single healthy zucchini plant will hand you a squash every single day or two. One plant. I'm not stretching the truth to make a point here. The thing outproduces your appetite, your recipe ideas, and your neighbor's patience all at the same time. Here's a tip I learned the hard way, and it'll save you some heartbreak. Some mornings I'd find little baby squash that started to form and then shriveled up and rotted right off the vine. That's a pollination problem, not a disease, so don't go reaching for sprays. What I do now is, first thing in the morning, I take a male flower, peel back the petals, and dab it into the female flowers. Those are the ones with a tiny squash already forming behind them. 30 seconds of work, and the fruit sets every time. One plant cost me almost nothing to get going, and by August, I was genuinely out of ideas for what to do with the avalanche of it. That is the plant that outproduces your appetite, plain and simple. But the next one on my list is smaller, greener, and it saved me more money per square inch than anything else in the whole garden. Number 3, Genovese basil. And this one is all about the math for the budget-minded among us, so stick with me for a second. Walk into just about any grocery store and you'll find a sad little plastic clamshell of basil sitting there for around $3. A small handful of leaves already starting to wilt, and it's gone in 2 meals. Now, compare that to one basil plant, just one, for the price of a single packet of seeds or a $4 starter from the nursery. I get jars and jars of fresh pesto all summer long off that one plant. The whole secret is in how you harvest it. You pinch the tops, not the big bottom leaves, but the very top growing tips, and you never ever let it flower. The moment basil flowers, it decides its work is done, and the leaves turn bitter on you. So every few days I pinch those tops right out, and instead of one stem, the plant splits into 2, then 4, then 8. By the middle of summer, it's a full bush. I genuinely have not bought a clamshell of store herbs in years now, and honestly, the homegrown stuff tastes like a completely different plant that's never paying $3 for a wilting handful of leaves again. But the next vegetable on the list kept right on producing for me until the December frost, and here in our long California season, that's a very long time indeed. Number 2, peppers, both the sweet bells and the spicy chili types. Now here in Sacramento, we've got a gift that a lot of folks around the country don't, and that's a long Zone 9B growing season. My peppers go into the ground after the last frost in early March, and they don't quit on me until the first real cold snap finally arrives in December. That's the better part of an entire year. One bell pepper plant set more than 30 peppers for me last season, 30 off a single plant, and one good chili plant gave me so many that I was drying and freezing them by the bagful well into winter. Remember that rule I handed you back at the beans? Keep picking, keep producing? Peppers live by it every bit as much. Every pepper you pick while it's still green tells the plant to go ahead and set 2 more in its place. If you let them all just sit there and ripen to red at the same time, the plant takes itself a vacation. So I pick steadily, a few at a time, and that plant keeps setting fruit for months. At the store, a single bell pepper runs you $1.50, maybe 2. 30 off one plant is a freezer full of free peppers and a real honest dent in the grocery bill. That's exactly the kind of producer I built this whole list around, but there's one plant that beat every single one of these on grocery bill impact. The one I nearly gave up on for good. Let me finally tell you about it. Before I get to number 1, let me pause for just a second. If you're ready to turn this from one productive plant into a full system, the kind that hands you food week after week without you buying much of anything, that's exactly what I put together in my book, The 30-Day Kitchen Scrap Garden Protocol. Chapter 7, Scaling Up from Windowsill to Backyard, walks you through succession planting for a continuous harvest and my Never Buy Herbs Again system, with illustrated guides for growing vertically when you've got no yard at all, just a balcony or a small bed. It's $17 at backyardbuddybooks.com. If you're watching on your TV right now, grab your phone and point it at the QR code on the screen. Go ahead, I'll wait right here for you. And if you're already on your phone or your laptop, the link is sitting right down in the description. Now, number 1, and the one that took the biggest bite of all, the one I very nearly walked away from gardening over. Number 1 is the tomato. Now I want to be honest with you because this one did not come easy for me. I killed my first 3 tomato plants in a single summer, all 3 of them. I'd water them, fuss over them, and then watch them wilt and yellow and just give up on me, one right after another. I came this close to deciding I simply wasn't a tomato person and quitting the whole thing for good. If that's where you are right now, staring at a sad, wilted plant and feeling like your thumb is the opposite of green, I want you to hear me out because 3 simple changes turn the entire thing around. The first one is deep planting. When I set a tomato seedling now, I bury 2/3 of the stem in the soil. It feels completely wrong the first time, like you're drowning the poor thing. But here's the magic of it. Every bit of that buried stem grows brand new roots. You end up with a huge root system feeding a much stronger plant. That single change did more for me than anything else. The second is watering, and this was a big part of why those first 3 died. I used to give them a shallow little sprinkle every single day. Tomatoes don't want that. They want a deep, thorough soaking a couple times a week, down where the roots are. I mulch heavy around the base to hold all that moisture in, and that steady, even water is what stops the fruit from splitting and from getting that ugly rot on the bottom end. And the third one, I figured out just by paying attention. My best tomatoes always came from one particular corner of the bed, the hot corner that caught the full afternoon sun and held the heat off the fence. Once I noticed that pattern, it clicked. Tomatoes want maximum heat and maximum sun. Give them the warmest spot you've got. Here's what made them number one, though. I grow cherry tomatoes for sheer volume. A couple of indeterminate plants will hand you hundreds of fruit across a whole season, and indeterminate just means they keep climbing and producing all summer instead of quitting, which is exactly the rule this entire list is built on, and I grow a few slicers alongside them for the real grocery dollar value. Between the two, tomatoes single-handedly took the biggest bite out of that $832 number. It was the single largest line I erased off my grocery list, off plants I'd nearly given up on for good. And if that $832 number is what's been rattling around in your head this whole video, here's where I'll point you. Chapter 11 of the book is the Grocery Savings Tracker, and it's the guide I wish I'd had 10 years ago when I was killing tomato plants and throwing away half my potential garden. It shows you exactly how I tracked the produce I stopped buying and walks you right down that trajectory from $832 toward around $200. If you've ever felt like gardening was just too expensive, or like you'd already failed at it before, this is the chapter that makes those savings real and concrete. You'll find the whole thing at backyardbuddybooks.com. Take a moment now, grab your phone and type that in, or scan the code on your screen if you're on the TV. No rush at all. I'll be right here when you get back. So there you have it. Those are the 10 vegetables so productive you'll never buy them again. The same 10 that erased whole lines off my grocery list and took a real bite out of that $832 number. You don't have to plant all 10 this week. Honestly, you don't have to plant any of them yet. Just start with one. Pick the easiest thing on the list. Green onions in a glass of water or a little pot of leaf lettuce on the windowsill. And grow that one well before you add another. Remember, you don't need a yard. You need a window. Drop me a note in the comments and let me know which one you're trying first, because I read every single one of them and I love hearing how it goes. And if you want to see how I turn the trash from my kitchen into free plants all over again, go watch my video on regrowing vegetables from kitchen scraps next. Until next time, keep growing your own food, my friend.